Done, done, done. Live on YouTube, live on LinkedIn. People on WhatsApp invited. I am ready. All my bags are packed. I'm ready to go. Ready. We are ready. So, people, if you can hear me, come on in. Come on in. Let your comments rolling. Come on in. We're a bit early. Mr. Tiwari, good morning. Let's start. I guess you can hear me. That's a pretty clear direction. And when you're in the show business, do as the director says, right? Do as the director says. And with that, let's begin. Let's begin. The show that we deserve. The show that we deserve. We deserve it. It's that good. We deserve it. Bum bum bum. Bum 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 bum. Bum 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 bum. Bum 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 bum. Bum bum bum. Bum 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 bum. Bum 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 bum. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Thinker's Frequency. We're having such a good time. This is the peak of human civilization. We are working so hard, doing such good work for ourselves, our parents, our kids, our siblings, our husbands, our wives, our friends, everybody. Well, not other people's husbands and wives, I hope. And just when we thought things couldn't get any better, like they couldn't possibly get any better, well, they just did. Call it divine intervention, folks, but things just got a whole lot better. Now we have Thinker's Frequency, our daily mental workout, our daily dose of insights and analysis which don't lead to paralysis right before we punch in. So let's continue with our journey of reading between the lines, things that are especially interesting and important in the world of business and finance. Let's go! Oh, but before we go, we got to follow a tradition, right? You know the tradition. The tradition of the simultaneous sip, the sweet and sacred. We'll all sip something together and it'll bring us good luck, as it always does, every day, without fail. It makes us lucky. And all you need for the simultaneous sip is a cup or mug, a glass, a tank, a chalice, a stein, a canteen jug, a flask, or a vessel of any kind. Pour it with your favorite liquid. Today I'm having water. Not with black pepper, but there's something called cumin seeds. Jeera, is it cumin? Yeah, jeera is called cumin, right? Anyway, water with some jeera in it. It's supposed to be healthy, man. I don't know. And here we go. Ah, beautiful. Let's do it again. Oh my God, sublime. Sublime. It's healing me. Already, I can feel the anti-inflammation happening. You know what the simultaneous sip says, right? If we do it every day, it says that you're not alone. It says that we're in this together. And that's such a beautiful thing to say. With that out of the way, let's begin. Let us begin. Bulls break market fall as peace hopes float. And SBI's good earnings. SBI had some nice earnings. And people are really hopeful for the August 15 meeting of Mr. Trump and Mr. Putin. Trump says that Russia has a lot of potential. Russia can do well, but it's not doing well. It doesn't help, and I'm quoting, when the President of the United States says that there's going to be a duty of 50% if you buy Russian oil. It's hurting them. It's hurting them. Yes, it's hurting them. And now they're going to do well. They've got to stop the war. So he's, in his typical way, he's talking about how Russia needs to do well. It has the potential to do well, but it's not doing well right now. But since he's put a real pressure point on Russia by tariffing its biggest trading partner, or let's say the second biggest trading partner, Russia will come down with the war efforts. That's his hope, and that's India's hope as well. PM Modi met Zelensky, Mr. Zelensky, and he says, "We are hoping for peace. We are with peace." I don't know what it means, right? We are with peace. I'm with peace. I'm on the peace side. Are you on the peace side? Well, I'm certainly on the peace side. Why would you say something like that? It doesn't make any sense. But anyway, that's what he did. And speaking of geopolitical happenings, Nvidia and AMD have sort of cut a deal with the United States government where they said they will give like 50%, 15% of revenue to the US government for supplying their chips to China. So essentially, until now, US policy had been to not give them the good chips, essentially, to block their supply of chips because you got to protect yourself, you got to keep the edge. But Nvidia and AMD are saying that 15% cut and we'll be able to sell the chips. So that's weird. That's weird. This is all a game of leverage and China is winning. China has so much of leverage that US has not been able to buy TikTok. US has not been able to sell TikTok. US has not been able to tariff China more because Mr. Peter Navarro says that we've already tariffed China to 50%, and if we tariff them more, it's going to hurt us. US has not been able to do anything about the rare earths. So no leverage against China, which is showing. And now US is going to export its cutting edge chips to China as well. So who wins? China wins, But Russia and Mr. Trump are going to meet on August 15th. How many days is it from now? Just 3 days. Just 3 days, which is essentially giving Indian stock markets some hope. Let's move on from that story. Desi malts take premium scotch down a peg or two. Domestic single malt sales jump as Indians swig more premium whiskies costing less. So we've talked a lot about this. We've talked that how overall globally alcohol consumption is declining. So viewers of Thinkers Frequency know this. They were surprised in the beginning, but alcohol consumption is overall declining across the globe. And not just across the globe, alcohol consumption is declining amongst Indians as well. Young people are not drinking that much. There are a lot of reasons to it. We discussed it. I guess there are some new viewers. New viewers. New viewers of Thinkers Frequency. So why are people drinking less? There are a lot of things. Some analysts said in India. So here's what happened. Indian analysts said that people are looking at being healthy. And we call BS on that. We call bullshit. This is not the reason why alcohol consumption is declining. Okay. Then we waited for the US analysts because US market is a little liberal, right? And they quoted marijuana, weed, as one of the reasons. Now, we figured out why Indian analysts didn't want to say that young people, or let's say the middle-aged people, are smoking up more than drinking. Right? Because weed is illegal in India, right? So a lot of analysis basically tries to be politically correct. They don't want to come in the crosshairs of the government. So they come up with lies. But we caught that lie. Essentially, young people are drinking less because of alternate drugs going big in a big way. And also because young people are less. Aging. There's aging of population happening everywhere, especially in the Western world, right? And with aging of population, there's only so much you can drink, right, as you age. So a lot of factors, but the alcohol market overall is not growing as it used to. Now, what that means is, whatever scope left in the market is in the premiumization of alcohol, right? So let's say Desi Paua doesn't make a good business anymore, especially if it starts selling less, right? So you've got to, whatever company is in the alcohol business, what they want is premiumization. 66% of Indian alcohol market is yet not premiumized, right? So that's a big opportunity for all the incumbent alcohol players. And that's why there's a lot of M&A happening as well. So if you remember, Tilak Nagar Industries bought Pernod Ricard's Men will be men brand, right? Which one is it? Imperial Blue. Imperial Blue. So Tilak Nagar bought Imperial Blue. The Pyar Ki that one, right? Why did it buy it? Because for Tilak Nagar Industries, it was premiumization, right? And why did Pernod Records sell Premium Blue, Imperial Blue? Because they want to premiumize further. So whatever meat exists in the alcohol story in India exists in premiumization. Uh, some comments on LinkedIn. Mr. Kumar Priyadarshi says H2 from H20 from Nvidia are not cutting edge. It's N1 very specifically made for China. It's not just H20 which is going to be exported. It's also M1320. So I'll just tell you exactly what we'll come to that. So it's not just the H20 which are going to be exported. So they are actually looking at, they basically cut a deal. This is in reference to the previous story discussed. Moving on. So alcohol premiumization happening. Connoisseurs of premium whiskeys seem to be increasingly savoring the local provenance and distinctive character of Indian single malts over the top Scotch brands. Scotch brands have become a bit expensive, so Indian whiskies are essentially. But Scotch brands with the UK FTA, they were looking at getting cheaper, right? They were looking at getting cheaper. So that's a lot of that is happening. Over the top Scotch, Indri, a 4-year-old brand for Haryana, and so on, to emerge as top selling single malt in India last year. So on and so forth. So record sales of Indian single malts surpass imports from Scotland in 2024. So this premiumization is actually helping a lot of indigenous brands as well. A lot of Indian brands are latching on to the premiumization play, and single malts from India especially are doing well. So that's on. Moving on. Mutual funds have boasted a very blockbuster kind of a July. 42,000 crore equity schemes see highest contribution in month led by mid caps and small caps. So a lot of mutual fund action in the mid caps and small caps still, even though mid caps and small caps are pretty overvalued right now according to the basic indices, but the momentum isn't stopping, and a lot of mutual funds are going in. Debt funds are also high. At the moment, SIP collections at record 28,000 crores. This is why Indian market has been so robust. You know why Indian markets have been so robust? Because despite let's say drawdown of FPIs, foreign portfolio investors drawing down, but why is Indian market still so strong? The bulls are in charge because retail participation is growing like never before. Retail participation is in full swing. It's on steroids, right? And India is adding more and more retail investors in the stock market play, which is showing. Moving on. Lenders may provide relief to MSMEs from tariff plan. Look to waive administrative fee, penal interest on missing loan payment, and so on and so forth. So, of course, with the tariffs, India incorporate Indian banking. A lot of people are essentially thinking of ways to mitigate the tariff impact, right? Now, how do you mitigate the tariff impact? You make credit easily available. You find different markets. You have government incentives and schemes. You essentially look for domestic consumption increase. You look at some sort of retaliatory action if it's advisable. So that's all that is happening. Lenders are looking at waiving a lot of fee. This is troubleshooting essentially of the India Incorporate Tariff Management Plan. Mr. Nishant Aluwalia says, good morning. Good morning, Mr. Nishant. Beautiful first name. 100,000 diamond traders lose jobs. 100,000, 1 lakh diamond trade workers lose jobs because of tariffs. Now here's what the report doesn't say, and here's where our skill of reading between the lines comes handy, right? how does our skill of reading between the lines come handy? They say that trade workers have lost like 1 lakh jobs because of the tariffs that have been put in place. But the tariffs just happened, you know, just like a few days ago. How did they lose like 1 lakh jobs all of a sudden? Did they instantly fire people? Right? And they say that this has been happening for a couple of months, last 4 months. Last 4 months, tariffs were just 10%. Did they lead to losing out of 1 lakh jobs? No, that is not the true. That is not the true picture. The true picture is that American market and Chinese market, which are the two top export markets of China, of Indian diamonds, have been reducing their diamond buying. Because of what? Because of lab grown diamonds. Lab grown diamonds are really, really picking up in US, due to which the demand for natural diamonds, yes, Mr. Tiwari, 100% right, artificial diamonds, uh, due to which the natural demand for natural diamonds has been decreasing. And that is why you are seeing uh, diamond sector in a lot of stress already, and with that stress comes the tariff, right? So it's not the tariffs are yet to hit them right now. It's just been a few days, right? uh, but overall the industry has been so much uh, has been in so much of flux because of the lab grown diamond thing, that you are hearing this news in conjunction with a lot of bad news on tariffs. So this is what happens, right? When news sort of converges, like a lot of layoffs are happening somewhere, and then people start blaming AI. Even though AI is responsible and will be responsible for job losses, but it's not responsible for that particular set of job losses. However, those people feel comfortable in giving AI the blame, because the news business is what's happening. Moving on, uh, US tariffs are also going to hurt the Indian whiskey companies who are trying to go abroad to trying to establish themselves in US. No surprise there. India revs up export outreach to 50 countries. India is trying to make up for the loss of US business by reaching out to different countries, even Africa, West Asia, Australia, Europe, and so on and so forth. Because that's how you do it, right? $44 billion. $44 billion. How do you make up for it? Like, you have a market, and you have to test each market and each product and each market, study it competitively. And then you've got to make sure that, let's say, if $1 billion plus can happen from this market, right? Suddenly you have 50 countries, you might just be able to do something. That's a very obvious strategy. Telco signal to change gear, take local lane. So this is the part of the retaliatory tariff move. So what government is saying is go Atmanirbhar. Reduce dependency on foreign players for telecom play. Telecom gear. So right now telecom gear comes from the Finnish company Nokia, from the US company Cisco, and so on and so forth. A lot of telecom gear gets bought by these players. The government has fast tracked, the indigenous procurement of telecom gear by these telcos. Promoting equipment manufacturing is key target under Make in India. BSNL already mandated to use equipment from local firms. India among select list of countries having 4G and 5G technology. So this is the another way. So in nutshell, what can you do when you get hit by tariffs, right? Domestic consumption, this is domestic consumption. Finding other markets, that's finding other markets, right? And helping the existing business community by loans, by better incentives, by some sort of schemes, subsidies, and so on and so forth. So all of those things are in full swing. Uh, Moving on from this story, there's a very weird story that has happened in Delhi. Uh, all Delhi NCR stray dogs to shelters, says Supreme Court. Now, I'm not sure on how you read this news, because there's a lot of extreme camps on both sides. Some people really hate dogs, stray dogs. Some people really love stray dogs. I'm on the latter camp. I really love dogs, love stray dogs, and I find this extraordinarily bizarre, that the Supreme Court can actually say something like all stray dogs to shelters. Like, this is dumb on so many levels. This is so hilariously out of depth and stupid. right? You ask how? Like, where are those shelters? Where are those shelters? Are you saying that we had an overcapacity of dog shelters and those shelters were not being used to the brim, and we have so much of overcapacity that all the dogs that exist on the streets right now can be put to shelters and it'll be an okay job? Is this a reality? If you're asking the stray dogs to be shifted to shelters, where are those shelters? And when did you make all those shelters? And if those shelters didn't exist or don't exist, where are you putting these guys? This is so. Can I use an F word? Can I use the F word? I want to use the F word, but it's morning, it's early morning. But anyway, this is so freaking dumb, man. This is so freaking dumb. At so many levels, it's just unbelievable. And there's no surprise. You know, a very, very good way of looking at India. And if you, India has a lot of problems, and we talk a lot about those problems, right? We talk a lot about problems India has and why rich people want to move out of India and so on and so forth. Uh, Mr. Taran says, your brother is gonna hear this. Besides, the ecological impact is not even factored, says Mr. Mittal. He's my brother. And yeah, so it's just, so the problem is, when you think about all the problems that India has, right? There's the stem of a problem, there's the root of all problems, which leads to more problems. What is the root of all the problems that India has? You know, can you guess? Can you guess what is the root of all problems that India has? It's the judiciary. It's the judiciary. You know, it's basically, it's when somebody breaks the law. When somebody breaks the law, no, it's not overpopulation, Ms. Bhatia. It's the judiciary. You know, overpopulation, by the way, it's the biggest anti-human narratives that have been pushed. It's the civic sense, says Mr. Tiwari, but no, it's the judiciary. You know, the judiciary decides on how bad behavior is penalized and how good behavior is rewarded, right? That is the incentive of living a life. What is the reward for good behavior and what is the punishment for bad behavior? Who decides that? That is decided by law enforcement and judiciary, right? If the judiciary is bad, there is no reward for good behavior and there is no penalty for bad behavior, which what it means is that you start incentivizing bad behavior. When a country starts incentivizing bad behavior in any direction, you know, the country falls apart. And that's why India is how it is, because the judiciary is so freaking dumb. It's so unbelievably stupid. It's so inefficient. It's so, you know, it's corrupt. What happened to Justice Verma? Supreme Court hasn't taken suo motu cognizance for the Justice Verma case. It's still pending. No judge in the history of this country, independent country, has been ever impeached, you know, despite finding cash. And judiciary is that hurdle which has essentially, you know, kept on. It's just incentivized bad behavior. And you know what, that's exactly the root of all problems. If just imagine if civic sense, Mr. Tiwari said civic sense, you know, how do you enforce good civic sense, good civic behavior? By judiciary, by law enforcement. If somebody doesn't pay you, like my company, it was indulged in business with other companies, right? So few companies just didn't pay us. And why did they feel comfortable in not paying us? Because they knew that we can't do anything. But we went to the court, you know, and then we went to the court and the case just dragged on. So they didn't fear the court because they thought that the judgment is going to screw it, you know. That it wasn't the judgment, it was the trouble of interacting with judiciary which made them pay. And that's the nature of the country, right? That's why we are so screwed in a way. And hi everyone, good morning. It's 4 a.m. for me, Nishant. I managed to join live today. You want to use the F word. 4 a.m. Don't worry, not using the F word. Anyway, This, by the way, the whole incentive play I just narrated, it's not an original thought. I learned it from Nayib Bukele, Mr. Nayib Bukele, the president of El Salvador. So what he said was, El Salvador was the crime capital of the world. It was the world's most unsafe place. Okay, just like 5 years ago, it was the world's most unsafe place. Now, from the world's most unsafe place, El Salvador is the safest country in the Western Hemisphere. That means it's safer than US, it's safer than Europe. As far as the overall crime is considered. A place where homicides rates were through the roof, it's now down to nothing. El Salvador is super safe, right? Super safe. And it all happened in 5 years. And how they discussed it was that he said, I got a zero tolerance approach towards crime. Crime is crime. If you do the crime, you'll have to do the time, right? And it's gonna be brutal. It's not gonna be pretty. And he made like huge jails, like huge prisons. Now El Salvador is actually exporting its prison management services to other countries. That's a natural national produce that they're exporting. So they said that we have a zero tolerance towards crime. And you know what? These liberal people said, the globalists, the intellectuals, that if you reduce crime all of a sudden, it's gonna puncture the economy. Because even the crime, proceeds of the crime contribute to the economy. Let's say if somebody steals something, right, they go to the showroom and buy a bike, and that's white money. So if you're gonna kill crime all of a sudden, it's gonna kill the economy, or GDP is gonna have a shock of 20 to 30%. It was like, this is how these idiots talk, right? They sound smart on paper. They sound smart on paper. Like, this sounds smart, right? Whoa, that's nice. You're gonna kill the GDP by killing crime. Wow, that's intelligent. And he said, I'm not gonna listen to these losers. I'm gonna kill crime. So they involved army, and they impeached the judges. They just reformed the judiciary. They just reformed the police system, and they start going for the gangs. Like El Salvador has like MS-13 and all these satanic gangs, and they just rounded them up. And now they have like a large jail, large prison where these people are kept in a very, very horrible condition. And that sort of changed the insight. So he said, what was the incentive earlier for a tomato seller who was just selling tomatoes, right? Just selling tomatoes, just making $5 a day. He's not making anything. $5 is what, 400 bucks a day in Indian rupees. He's not making a lot of money. He's not a part of the nation building exercise. He's just living his job, doing his job, selling tomatoes. He sells tomatoes for an entire week. He makes, let's say, 3,000 bucks a week. And then a gang member comes and he loots him, right? What is the incentive for him to do good work? What is the incentive for him to do good work? And what is the incentive for him to actually join the gang, right? That's what shapes a country. Now, in this country, what is the incentive for you to do good work, right? There is no incentive, right? There are very, very less incentives, if at all, right? But if there are a lot of incentives in becoming a babu and stealing people's money, right? So that's how, and this particular ruling is another one of, that's how it is. Sad day. It's very weird. It should have been good if the judge said, it could have been good if the judge said, like, we've got to make shelters and we've got to get them all to shelters. Like, we are instructing the government to construct huge shelters to essentially take all of these dogs to those shelters, and then it's just put them in shelters. Like those shelters are in his home, right? Anyway, a lot of comments. Mr. Tarun says, if you take a metro in Delhi, there's a board saying no spitting, but the moment you exit the metro, walls are painted red with spits and garbage. Yeah, as I said, yeah, I just went to the railway station yesterday. It was a shithole. Anyway, moving on. Indian Gen AI companies turn into bigger investment magnets. So far, 524 million received in total by startups. This year, a fourfold increase from 129 million raised in 2021. So 129 million in 2021 for Gen AI companies. That's obvious because 2021, too new for the Gen AI tech. Now it's 524 million. Even last year, there was some 475 million. So 475 to 529. And it's half. So it's basically more than double. None of this money has hit me as yet. Sad. I hope it happens soon though. Moving on. Smartphone shipments jumped 8% in April to June. 8%, 37 to 38 million in April to June quarter, April, May, June. Some growth as far as the smartphone industry is considered, right? Some growth, but they say the overall demand remains subdued. It's not, it's basically nothing, right? So 7 to 8%. And a lot of it is just value growth, not volume growth. So that's a bit of a problem. But they say that the next quarter is to be watched out because the smartphone sales have been very lackadaisical for a very long time now, 3 years. So next 2 quarters are going to be deciding a lot of things. Electronics exporters are, moving on with the new markets. Let's move on for the other stories of the day. Modi Zelensky discuss Ukraine bilateral ties. PM reaffirmed India's steadfast position for peaceful settlement. Restoration of peace a priority. That's so funny. Moving on. I hope I'm not missing out anything. I usually don't miss out anything, and that's why we've been able to connect news so well, right? We connect everything so well because we don't miss out anything. Major steel companies to conduct studies on carbon capture, domestic global companies to take part. That is very necessary. Steel is amongst the biggest polluters, biggest contributors to carbon emissions, and steel has had a lot of, let's say, developments in this direction. So if you remember, we discussed it in depth. Viewers of Thinkers Frequency would remember how steel industry, how steel manufacturers were looking at the hot release of gases as an offset for the green energy requirements that they're supposed to fulfill. So steel industry has some green mandates that this much energy you have to use only green energy, right? And then there's something called a hot furnace release, right, for steel manufacturing. So they use that hot that particular energy to make more steel or to run their plants and something. So they said that since we have invested in this technology of harnessing this hot furnace energy release, we should get some sort of rebate as far as the green energy requirement is considered. Because if we are buying green energy and then we are also using green energy in-house, we are just basically getting buried with costs, right? So that development had happened. But a group of Indian and foreign headquartered steel makers is undertaking a pre-feasibility study to assess development of carbon capture, utilization and storage hubs across the board. So that's what's happening. We've discussed steel industry a lot. Viewers of Thinkers Frequency should remember that was a pretty complicated discussion. And Mr. Patil said that he's in the same industry. So, we had an insider in this play also as well. And Mr. Jindal as well. House panel calls for phased rollout of law on digital competition. So digital competition is a pretty big deal. Viewers of Thinkers Frequency would remember how CCI ruled against Google for its anti-competitive practices on Google Play Store. Then, there was another case on Google search advertising planted by, you remember the plaintiff for those cases? It's an association of Indian startups. Do you remember that? I hope you do. It was ADIF, the Startup Federation of Indian, digital companies, right? So they sued Google for Play Store anti-competitive practices, and CCI ruled in their favor, and they said Google needs to pay 1,000 crores. And then Google went to appellate NCLAT. NCLAT or some appellate tribunal, essentially. The appellate tribunal also said that CCI is right. You need to pay 1,000 crores and change your ways. And then Google has went to Supreme Court. Now, obviously, this is a very, very long drawn process. The legal system, the incentivization of bad behavior, just as we discussed a few minutes ago. House panel calls for phased rollout of some law on digital competition. So they want this to be sorted out. They want this to be a little more streamlined, right? So that you can't just screw with people just because you can. But because you can, You will. New income tax bill is getting Lok Sabha nod. A lot of rewording, a lot of rewriting. Half of it is getting churned off. Some simplifications and so on. Of course, we can't discuss that because that'll be like a 2 hour thing. But in nutshell, these people are saying provisions of MAT and AMT separated, refund claim after late refiling, and so on and forth. Time for TDS correction now, 2 years, and a lot of other things. So new income tax bill, we've got to have a separate discussion on it, if at all. But it's one of the many things the government is trying to do. To what? To what? Do you remember? What is the income tax flexing for? Why did the government essentially bring up a zero tax below 12 lakh rupees? You remember, right? Viewers of Thinkers Frequency, now we are very set on these terms. Can you just write on comments? Yeah? I'm waiting for your comments, folks. Why did the government reduce income, boost consumption, says Mr. Patil. Mr. Patil, you're right. Rich don't Mr. Taran says, rich don't get taxed, so why should we? Well. Merchant shipping bill gets sails through Rajya Sabha. Upper House passed the merchant shipping bill. This law targets modernizing India's maritime framework, aligning domestic laws with international best practices, and so on. So this will boost India's bankability as maritime hub, increase tonnage under our flag. So this is very good news for Indian maritime operators, Cochin Shipyard, Masgaon Dock. Let's hope it helps their stock. Moving on. You know what, Mr. Tarun, I should address that actually. The rich don't get taxed because if the rich get taxed, the poor won't have jobs. That's the Reagan, trickle down Republican theory, right? You reduce the tax for the industrialists so they can actually increase wages and also hire more people and set up more plants. They can expand their production. So that is the usual argument against taxing the rich, that rich, if you tax the rich, they're just gonna leave, right? And if they leave, they're gonna leave everything. They're gonna take away everything with them. And that's what happened with Bengal, right? So Bengal stopped Tata from coming in for the nano plant. Tata just went to Gujarat for favorable conditions. Now, nano didn't work out in Tata's favor. But you see what happened to Tamil Nadu. You see what happened to Andhra Pradesh, Telangana, for all the incentives that they provided. You see what happened to Gurgaon, and so on and so forth, right? So the gift city is essentially a tax haven. I agree with you 100%, says Mr. Thar. Moving on. Mining companies' payment to trust may rise to fund foreign critical minerals, expansion. So we discussed this yesterday. Viewers of Thinkers Frequency would remember that the government is setting up the trust for essentially moving for overseas mining of critical minerals. This is essentially in response to Chinese sanctions or Chinese blockage of rare earth minerals, magnets. So India had to respond. So India have created a trust which is getting paid by Indian mining companies, and they have 1,000 crore trust, and it's going to get more money. So 3,500 crore. This 3,500 crore is going to be looking at exploration of critical minerals outside India. So that's what's happening. Chinese company payment to rise, and so on and so forth. Lok Sabha Trust. Yeah. National Mineral Exploration Trust. That's what's going to get paid. Moving on. Somebody has written an article. Gender parity isn't a perk, it's the drill. Okay. Adani Defense joins Prime Aero to buy Indamar Technics. So Adani Defense and Aerospace is actually entering in a lot of MRO business. MRO is called maintenance, repair and overhauling business. So they are already India's largest MRO player, and they want to expand. So they've bought Indamar Technics. It's going to strengthen their capabilities. Why? Because Indigo and other airlines are like bringing in 1,500 new planes, right? Those planes need to be maintained, repaired, and overhauled. And Adani, being the champion of these commodity trades, knows where the show is going, and so they are really strengthening their position as far as this aviation industry is considered. Let me fetch some numbers if there are any. Just 1,500 plays, which I've already which I have already explained. Set up in 2018, ITPL operates as a state-of-the-art greenfield facility in Mihan Special Economic Zone in Nagpur. 30 acres, it features 15 aircraft bays, 10 hangars, and is certified by India's DGCA. So that's not a number, really. Moving on, IHCL, India Hotels, right? Tata Group, India Hotels Company, is signed a 204 crore check to check into 2 hotel chains. It's bought 2 hotel chains. Most properties will be rebranded as Ginger Hotels, expanding chain to 250 properties. So these people are really banking on Indian hospitality play. The hotel companies are looking at really going full ballistic. Not just IHCL, which is a Tata company, ITC Hotels is also targeting 220 properties. They're saying that the Indian demand for Indian hospitality, Indian rooms, will outpace supply, which is a way of saying that the industry will be doing great. They say that Indian rooms per 1,000 people are at right now at 0.3, as compared to the global average of 2.5, if I'm not wrong. So 0.3 for 1,000 people, 2.2. The global average is 2.2. Now, it's always a wrong strategy to quote these numbers. This is just a plain vanilla, bad data workaround that you say, hey, Indian rooms, this, and global average, this. This is not any way to actually judge consumption. Similar consumption norms were judged because they said coffee consumption is India is this many grams per capita, outside is this. They started investing a lot in coffee companies. What happened? Nothing happened, right? So this is a very bad way of looking at the industry, but a good spin on PR, right? It's going to attract a lot of investments. Mr. Patil asks, why are they seeing the hospitality boosting? Tourism is not rising, consumption is low. Mr. Patil, consumption is low, but consumption's offshoots were shown as far as this particular hospitality increase is considered. So FMCG and hospitality were the two industries that were defying that trend. So hospitality is a slightly green field right now. Also, they expect a lot of foreign tourists to come because India has mandated a lot of foreign. So this is all projection. This is all BS projection. That demand's gonna be outpacing the supply and so on. These are dreams. But the dream is that with India's renewed focus on tourism, we are gonna see demand outpacing supply. So they want the hospitality sector to boost. And you know what happens, right? Half of reality is perception. So if they create a perception, and that perception somehow gets supported with a good set of earnings, they're green. A lot of investment activity is going to happen. Moving on, chemists seek a ban on quick commerce sale of prescription drugs. That's been going on for a very long time. Chemists have been saying that Zepto and Blinkit are delivering some over-the-counter medicines, and that's going to hurt. This is illegal. We're going to get screwed, and the whole country is going to get screwed. This is not right. So chemists have a serious lobby. Unlike the retail players, retailers don't have that lobbying power, or let's say the regulatory foothold, but chemists do. Pharmacists have that kind of control, and they're seeking a ban, and you might just see that something like this happens. So in quick commerce, they've not even thought about setting an inventory-led play, right? They say that we're going to be tying up with merchants and then using them because this lobby is strong. L&T bags a 15,000 crore Adani Power order for 8 thermal plants of 800 megawatt each. So L&T is really going for the kill. Energy conglomerate has secured an ultra mega contract from Adani Power to establish 8 thermal power units totaling 6,400 megawatt of generation capacity. The project will be delivered by L&T Energy and so on and so forth. Scope, designs, complete design and so on. RBI clears the air on minimum deposits, says only banks decide. So the recent news that ICICI said that we're gonna have a minimum balance of like 50,000 bucks, annual sorry, quarterly maintenance balance, was it, or annual, whatever. It was 25,000, and people who don't meet, sorry, 50,000, and people who don't meet that will have to pay damages, penalties, and there was a hue and cry like, what are you doing? So RBI has come out and said it's their business, man. We are nobody to tell banks what to set their annual or quarterly, monthly balance is considered. So ICICI is gonna go where it's gonna go. People were expecting it to, sir, this is unfair and so on. But sir, like, if you Garib, bank somewhere else. ICICI only wants to deal with Amirs, not Garibs. Anyway, jewelry firms want the IPO glitter too. Bluestone is going public, and jewelry firms are saying that we need this IPO magic. IPO seems to be a good way of making money. At least 10 companies to tap primary market amid rich valuations, other fundraise constraints. So that's what's happening with jewelry firms. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm. A lot of companies. Moving on. LIC's goal is insurance for all by 2047. Policy numbers should grow from Q2. So at this moment, Indian market for insurance is pretty low. India has low insurance penetration. It's around 10%, I guess. Let me just check the number. The overall insurance penetration of the country. What should it be? I guess it was somewhere around 5% or something. Mm-hmm. 1 second. Can't find that number here. But LIC's MD and CEO says that LIC's goal is insurance for all by 2047. 2047, insurance for all, that means 100% penetration. That's huge. That's pretty solid. Let me check the number. India insurance penetration rate. What percentage of people have insured? 514 million people were covered under health insurance schemes in India. This is 37% of people in India. But this is because of Ayushman Bharat, right? Ayushman Bharat, yeah. Insurance penetration in India dips to 3.7%. Worrying dip in insurance penetration. Yeah, it is 3.67%. So life insurance 2.8%, non-life 0.94%. In 2019 it was. So 2023-2024 was 3.7%. That's what I was thinking. That's why this whole insurance for all is pretty solid, right? In penetration rate is at 4% right now, and by 2047 you're expecting it to go to 100%. That's awesome. If you have time, can you take up this question? In IPO, mostly it's down round from the last valuation. Then how are the latest investors VC happy with such down rounds? Asks Mr. Patil. It doesn't happen usually. So if you look at Lenskart, it had the last secondary transaction at a $5 billion valuation, and now it's looking at a $10 billion valuation, or let's say an $8 or $9 billion valuation. So most IPOs don't go for a down round. It's very rare, like very few companies actually go for a down round as far as IPO valuations are concerned. Like Ola didn't go for a down round. Oyo, you've heard from me about Oyo, how they wanted to jack the market, right? In 2019 they jacked up their valuation by investing. Like they self-bought their shares at 10 billion valuation. They were trying to go public at 12 billion, and so on. So every company tries to give a bumper listing to its earlier investments. Zomato didn't have a down round, and so on and so forth. So that's not the norm. Very few companies actually have to go that way. Moving on. Thanks for clarifying. You're welcome. From gold to Nvidia. Nvidia's price in 2019 was $4. Right now it's $130. So you can expect the returns. $173. Gold has risen 113% in these last 5 years. Gold has been going up. Geopolitical uncertainty is pretty high. In 2020 we got hit by COVID, and 2024 we got hit by a lot of wars. So gold is obviously rising. Nvidia has given great returns. That's just an article which we already knew about. SBI halts Nayara transaction for fear of sanctions. So SBI has halted Nayara's transaction. Viewers of Thinkers Frequency would remember Nayara. Nayara is the Rosneft and Reliance joint venture. Rosneft is the Russian company owning 49% in Nayara. SBI doesn't want anything to do with them because it fears sanctions. So latest EU sanctions and US tariffs have made processing of transactions for Nayara difficult, say sources. Moving on. Smartphones ringing louder. We've discussed that. Apple maintained its strong performance in India with growing 21% year on year. You know, market traders unanimously observed a rebound in smartphone shipments, growing 7 to 8% on year after 2 quarter slumps. The rebound came as a result of an increase in new model launches, along with increased channel margins and so on. That said, consumer demand remains subdued, with rising average selling prices expected to limit annual recovery in shipments. So shipment recoveries limited, price recovery high. Something to be noted here is that the smartphone industry, it was heavy online first, right? Do you remember? Smartphone industry had completely shelved the retail. They had like thrown the retailers under the bus, right? But that's sort of reversing, because online mobile sales have plateaued. They've actually declined. And with that market decline, with that opportunity declining, online companies like phone companies have realized that we've got to come back to retailers. But by then they had already killed a lot of retailers, so they couldn't really do much. But yeah, retail industry has sort of, with the new margins at play, they've given it slight of a comeback. JSW is challenging 6,155 crore EBITDA claim in BPSL dispute. So we discussed that. Viewers of Thinkers Frequency would remember. Lenders to BPSL said, Bhushan Power and Steel, that JSL has to pay us because it delayed the payments by 540 days. The lenders and operational lenders by 900 days. So they should pay. JSW is going to contest that. Again, rewarding of bad behavior, no incentive for good behavior, because the court proceedings keep running forever. That it's just a matter of courts, right? Just play court. Nvidia AMD to pay 15% of China chip to sale revenue. Now this somebody on LinkedIn, Mr. Kumar Priyadarshi said only M20 chips, H20 chips. No, but M1308 chips are also going to be sold to the government, right? We follow US government set for our participation worldwide. While we haven't shipped H20 to China for months, we hope to export a control route. So even the H20 supply was not really in full swing. Moving on, a VC Special Invest has logged a 600 crore rupee fund. They wanted to raise 500 crores. It was oversubscribed. They've raised 600 crores. So they're gonna cut 18 to 20 early stage deep tech companies with ticket sizes ranging from 7 to 10 crores. So let's hope something hits me there. Moving on. Trump crypto firm announces $1.5 billion in digital coin deal. Now this is obviously very interesting, some conflict of interest. As a part of the deal, World Liberty will receive shares in ALTS according to securities in return for $750 million worth of WLF1 FI coins. That's World Liberty Fund coins. World Liberty Financial, the crypto startup founded by Trump family, announced that a public traded technology firm would begin buying large quantities of its signature digital coins. So this is the weird thing, that everybody was talking about. The family has been very transparent about what it wants to do with crypto. And the president is also, Trump is also very transparent about where he wants crypto to go. If the president is transparent, if and the transactions are transparent, does it still is it still a problem, or the transparency, does it actually reduce or absolve people of, let's say, questionable behavior? Because there's something called Nancy Pelosi tracker. So you know what Nancy Pelosi did? Nancy Pelosi was the senator in US, and her husband used to trade stocks, and his returns were like much ahead than S&Ps, right? He was basically the best trader in the world. And how he used to be trading was that he used to be using the sensitive information that came from his wife, and used that sensitive information to trade stocks and made heavy returns. Now that was pure and simple illegal, but not illegal in America, morally illegal. But now these people have been transparent in what they want to do. So Trump has been very clear on what Bitcoin wants to do. So if his family actually engages in businesses in crypto, is it illegal? Is it wrong? Is it right? A good question to ask. But that is a perspective. Moving on, Tesla arm is supplying electricity in UK, says regulator. Iran has blocked inspections by nuclear watchdog. So much for hurting their nuclear plants. Paramount has acquired UFC rights for 7.7 billion to boost streaming. So Paramount has had a 7.7 billion deal with UFC, Ultimate Fighting Championship, the MMA play. It's almost $1 billion a year contract for streaming UFC's title matches and non-title matches. So UFC has merged with WWE to form a $20 billion group. For people who don't know, WWE was a thriving business, a great business, but Vince McMahon, the founder of WWE, wanted out, and there were some cases around him, some sexual harassment cases, and he essentially wanted out. He wanted to sell the business after building it, and UFC was rising and WWE was facing some challenges. So Vince McMahon essentially laid a merger of WWE with UFC. It was a $10 billion merger. Okay, so now WWE is a part of the UFC group, and UFC has sold its rights to Paramount for 7.7 billion. That's a lot of money. An interesting case has happened in US. Therapists have lobbied to block AI to offer therapy. They say that AI hallucinates and gives wrong advice as far as therapy is considered, so it should be illegal. So now that is an answer to the AI question. Let's say AI builds a technology and it goes well. And let's say if therapists can say that, hey, it's going to take our jobs away and it's offering wrong advice, ban it. And the government chooses to ban the AI companies from offering therapy. And they say that for therapy, you should go to a therapist, right? If therapists can do that, doctors can do that as well. Because, people are going to be visiting less doctors, because if they can get good advice from ChatGPT, why would they go to a doctor, right? Then lawyers can say that as well, that, hey, the AI hallucinates and it should not be giving legal advice, so stop it, right? And if the government starts steamrolling, every industry can essentially build walls, right, to preserve itself by stopping AI from functioning as the all-knowing force. Mr. Tarun says, and Paramount is owned by Larry Ellison's son. You're right. So legal firms right now are killing it. They've raised a lot of money in AI. One of my friends is also working in a legal firm in India. So that's what's going on. Yeah. Moving on from that story, a lot of activity in AI. Roche, I hope I'm pronouncing it right. ROCHE, the pharmaceutical company Roche, has gotten a nod to import a key cancer drug injection. It's basically a lung cancer drug, something called atezolizumab injection. Tecentriq is the drug, is the salt, through subcutaneous route under the skin injection for Indian patients. So this drug has proven to be effective as far as metastasized, uh, you know, cancer is considered in the lungs. Metastatic non-small lung cancer, which is called NSCLC, after prior chemotherapy. So it's gotten a nod to import that key cancer drug, which is great. Which is, I hope nobody has to deal with that. I pray that everybody stays safe from that disease. But a drug getting imported in that direction is a good news. Moving on, M&M, Mahindra and Mahindra, has sold its Finnish company Sampo because it wants to focus on its core business. So that's always a good strategy. Plan to exit businesses that are underperforming. So it was a combined harvester maker, Sampo Rosewind, and it's getting sold with the new strategy of smarter capital allocation in core focus. So that's that. That's pretty much it, folks. Mm-hmm. Germfield Group has sold Faberge, a luxury jeweler. Yeah. So that's what I have for you today. We've covered everything. I hope you liked the episode. This brings us to the end of the 79th episode of Thinker's Frequency, our heavy daily mental workout, our daily dose of insights and analysis which don't lead to paralysis. Right before we punch in, it's 9:06. We're gonna punch in anytime soon. I wish you a beautiful day personally and professionally. I'll see you tomorrow, same place, same time, hopefully. Have a beautiful day. And, yeah, cheers. Bye bye. Sorry, I forgot to thank the people as always. A big thanks to Mr. Tiwari, Mr. Tarun, Mr. Mittal, Mr. Patil, Ms. Bhatia, Mr. Sumant, on LinkedIn, Mr. Kumar Priyadarshi, Mr. Nishant. Thank you. Thank you for the comments and everybody who watched. Cheers.